All right, tonight I want to do a psychic tarot reading on the murder of Brian Thompson. I've noticed that a lot of other tarot readers are taking this on, and frankly, I'm not really comfortable with doing a straight crime reading. Usually, if I try to do anything with psychic tarot for crimes, it's because somebody's missing, and I want to help that person be found. Then the evidence leads where it leads, And I'm not sure I picked the best deck just now. I was given intuition that the secret tarot again could be used. I really want this to be a short reading. I guess there's one card in here that they like. This is the intuition I'm getting. So, and it may actually be one of these in here. Okay, so like maybe this one. I normally don't like doing crime readings because, basically, unless you lead the police to evidence somewhere, nothing that you do can be used in court, basically, as a psychic reader. I mean, you're just taking information from wherever you get it, your spirit guides or whatever, intuition, whatever you might want to call it, and basically they still have to make their case. And so unless you can lead them to somewhere where they can find evidence, that's not very helpful. And not only that, but missing persons readings aren't that easy, to give useful information. Normally, my experience with them is that they're meant for the police, and that if you, Jesus, I just dropped something on the floor, and I want to rescue it because I don't want the cat getting it. Anyway, but missing persons cases aren't that easy. I've found out just through experience that they're often just meant for the police, and so you'll get all kinds of oddball things, and that's when I learned that you really can't force an answer, by asking more about it. In cases like that they'll give you what they give you, and if you try to get more information than they want to give you, then they could lead you down the wrong path, and so it's actually kind of difficult. And not only that, but a lot of times the clues don't make sense, and you have to just basically, it's best really to write things down, and then after the case is solved, you look at it and say, oh, that's what that meant. And most of the time it's stuff that the police probably had in their files already and knew already. They might not have known the whole picture, but if they had a choice between this and that, it would have led them down the right path, or given them a clue as to where this person might be, or the land that she's on, or the person who took her, things like that. As far as proving the case against the guilty party, that's really something that they have to have. I mean, it's not like just trying to figure out what's the best use of your time as far as where you're going to look when you have a large area to look. It's more, stuff that can be proven in court is an entirely different animal. But I'm just curious because Brian Thompson, that whole murder seemed to be a lot like a professional hit. And that kind of bothers me. I mean, they knew his schedule and everything. Not only his schedule, but when he'd be exiting the building. And, were they getting real-time information? Was he a hacker, or was he in communications with a hacker? All these things kind of trouble me. And, of course, the motive, too, and, whether or not the actual shooter was the one behind it. I mean, was it somebody who was genuinely angry because, his grandmother couldn't get the medical care she needed? Or was it somebody who was a hitman for hire? So let me just pull a few cards here. I really didn't want to make this a long thing. I mean, I'll be here as long as they want me to be, but I'm kind of tired tonight, and so I don't feel like my energy is all that good. for doing any of this. And so I'm just going to give it a try tonight and see if anything comes to me. And I've had readings for missing persons that was nothing more than one word. For example, one time a lot of times, like, they'll take an image. I remember I once got the word cellar from a sleeve. Like, they showed me somebody's sleeve, drew my attention to it, and then, they made me form it in a different way in my mouth, and it eventually evolved into cellar. Well, it turns out that the land the woman's body was eventually found on was land where the owner had tried to sell it in the past. It wasn't like a cellar, like a basement. It was somebody who was actually trying to sell the property. And, that didn't make any sense to me, but I wrote it down anyway. And, just things like that happen where you get, but back to the reading, there was only one word. So I got the sound SK and then L. And, that could have meant skull. I mean, this was a child who was missing. And it turns out the next day, and after that, I really got nothing. I just got those sounds, SK, like a skull or a skill, well, it turns out the next day she turned up at school. She'd been spending the night with her friend without telling her parents. So the word was school, not skull. And the reading ended, and they wouldn't give me anything else because she wasn't going to be missing for more than a few hours longer, until early the next morning when she turned up at school. So sometimes you just don't get anything. Another time I had the intuition, follow the vultures, and I went through this big long reading, and I think I mentioned that too. And then they found the missing person or her body not much longer after that. And it was like, of the thousands of tips they received, it was on the land that somebody had tipped them off that there were a lot of vultures hanging out there. So if I had just stopped the reading after the follow the vultures, I would have saved myself a lot of time, and anybody receiving that and taking it seriously, a lot of time also. It's like, oh, well, this tip means we should look at vulture reports. So, there's that. So in this case, I'm interested in a little more, like, why was he targeted? Was somebody else behind the targeting? Was this some kind of a sophisticated thing? And of course, none of it's provable, so I really don't want to get into the area of accusing somebody without knowing what's going on. That's why, criminal readings are something different from missing persons. Missing persons, if you can help them find the person, that's great, especially if they're still alive. But, from there on out, they have to follow the evidence. So this is, with that said, this is for entertainment purposes only. I have no idea if anything that I'm about to say is true, or if it's been altered so that I don't understand it and only law enforcement would understand it, which is usually the case with missing persons. So from one deck, I was guided to draw these two. Okay, they're saying not to get to this yet. And I'm sorry for my hand. My cat scratched me up, and then I'm starting to get kind of like a freezer burn down here along my wrist, where the mitten and coat sometimes don't cover the skin because it's very cold outside lately, and my skin's very sensitive to the cold. So sorry if my hands don't look that great these days. Oh my gosh, that's something I almost need to censor. Okay, that's the strength card. I was told this is a backup for this. This card normally would represent poverty, but when I look at it, let's see, visually, what am I getting from this? Anything? I'm thinking somebody who had a lot of blood loss or something, because, the coat represents to me that she's feeling cold, and, other things about this just kind of lead me to believe that. Well, actually, my intuition somewhat. So there's also the chance that there was some kind of molestation going on. And I'm not saying who did it. I mean, this still could be a claims issue. But poverty would seem to indicate it was somebody at the receiving end of the insurance, because the man made a lot of money, and his family, therefore, really didn't want for anything that I know of. But I'm getting, there is some kind of a medical situation, and there is money involved. Now behind her is, to explain this, is strength, which is, it looks like a naked teenager on the back of a lion. And the lion, to me, represents the shooter. Like, he's realized somebody's been wrong, and he's wronged, and he's going to do something about it. Now, is that the shooter or somebody who's working with the shooter? I'm trying to censor her a little bit here. It's actually a really pretty drawing. There's one thing I like about this deck. Oh, geez, I just showed it. But anyway, I might have to clip that part out. Okay, so you have visually, I mean, strength is the card, and, it looks to me like he cares about this person, and somebody behind the shooting cared about that person and wanted to help her out of her problems. We have lions over here again, too. Okay, so you have the Knight of Swords, who's kind of like a student or apprentice in this deck. Okay, so the Knight of Swords, which could be a student, a younger man, but an adult, and then the Chariot, which is transportation. And when I first turned this card over, I had intuition that, sorry for that noise, that's a kitty cat thing. The kitty cat's playing with his toys below the table. I tended to think that the shooter was very nervous on his trip, especially his return trip after he just killed somebody, which makes sense. And this little thing he's holding here, I have no idea what that is, but that's supposed to represent his gun. He may have taken the gun with him. And a cloak. I'm getting that he wasn't dressed well enough for the cold weather. Does that mean he went somewhere cold after this? Maybe. I'm kind of getting like Illinois, Michigan. Again, this is entertainment purposes only. I have no idea if any of this is true, but I'm kind of getting somewhere along the Great Lakes, maybe. Somewhere, what is it, somewhere familiar with him or somewhere unexpected? I'm getting some familiarity. And for some reason, right now I'm kind of seeing like the northeastern part of Illinois. But I have no idea whether that's related to where he went or not, or where he was from at one point, or where this thing went down. Assuming that he collaborated with other people on this murder. Frankly, I don't know. Maybe he just stood outside knowing that the man was inside, and just by watching and waiting and being attentive, he was able to know when to come outside. But it seemed like he'd been tipped off an awful lot, or he had access to a lot of good research on the man. Okay, and I'm not really sure visually. There's something about this rock he's standing on. Okay. There's something about that rock that's significant. And this is the part, like if I were doing a missing persons reading, I might stop right there if I had no further intuition on the rock or why or whether or not that cloak is important to him. I mean, there's something about this that I'm not catching, and I realize it. And a lot of times I won't share things like that with you, but to me, I'm being told, or I have intuition that the rock he's standing on is important, but I have no idea what that means, and I don't think they're being very forthcoming with me as to what it means. So that's something that might not be, that may mean something to somebody, like if this were missing persons, that may be something that's significant to law enforcement, and they know right away, I'm just making this up right now, but Rockaway Beach or Rockford, Illinois, or something like that. Maybe the rock is a part of the name of where he is or is from, or maybe it's a part of a name of a company or a part of his last name. I mean, I don't know what it is, but there's something about that rock. Maybe it's a type of rock like granite, or maybe it represents mountains, or, I don't know, but there's something significant about it, but they're not telling me what it is. And I see that all the time in missing persons case. It's not meant for you. It's meant for the people working the case. And so, I've just learned you leave it there. You don't try to force it, because if you try to force it, a lot of times you get wrong information. All right, now I'm being told I can look at this one, maybe save this one until later. Three of Wands. Okay, the Three of Wands, in some cards, could mean the talent card, but it definitely has to do with, somebody who's characterized as somebody who's a hard worker, a good worker, maybe a student, somebody who has a lot of intelligence, especially in this deck. The triangle reminds me of Triangle Park, and I mean, to confirm that, it's like Triangle then a park, which I think is an IT area in North Carolina. And the assassin boarded a bus in Georgia, which is in the South. It's quite a bit farther south than North Carolina. It's a couple states down. But I wonder if he knows somebody in that area. Like, if it may not even represent Triangle Park itself, it may represent that he's in contact with somebody who's in IT, who's helping him track this guy's movements. It could, just be kind of a figurative thing that, So I'm leaning toward this guy's schedule was somehow tracked electronically. Now, that could be that he was texting somebody he knows, hey, I'll meet you for lunch here. I'm leaving here in like 5 minutes. And so the killer had a time frame. It could also be that they completely hacked everything on his phone and they didn't have a contact who was a friend of his. It could mean anything to do with that. But that leads me to believe that it was his whereabouts were electronically tracked. Now, that little red arrow pointing up somehow is significant, and I'm not really sure why. As is this tree, or all of these trees right here. It is autumn, and there are trees that have turned color, and not only that, but now my attention is being drawn to this yellow thing where I'm not even sure what that is. That looks like an arrow, but it's probably a tree. They're probably all trees. All right, so maybe in an area where trees turn color for autumn. There's the Appalachians would certainly fit that. As would the kind of rolling hill type mountains in the past in the background, and then this green hillside up here. So I can't say I'm being given any names or anything or regions, Oh wait, some word, they're trying to get some word to me. Let me think. Let me wait for it again, if they'll give it to me again. Like an SL sound and a P? Like slope? Like North Slope? I have no idea if that's a company or a location or what. But that's kind of what I'm getting. It may not even be that exact term. It might be something similar to it. That's a clue. And then there's something. This thing looks like a crown, but it's not really like that. It's almost like they're giving me the inclination of like a skateboard park and a jelly donut. And then this up here looks like a duck to me. They're saying that's not as significant, but something about the little wheels. Oh, again, like the little wheels, like a skateboard park. Is that where he met somebody? I don't know. The hard part about things like missing persons, and I'm assuming the criminal type of cases are along the same lines, where when I'm given something I don't understand like that, normally I'd write it down. Now, this is just for entertainment, just for quote-unquote fun, if you can call this kind of thing fun. If there's one nice thing that the spirit guides seem to have done for me, it's not show me a lot of the blood and gore, because, these are very violent crimes and shocking, and, you don't really come out of them without some kind of trauma, suffering some kind of trauma from even, being exposed to them if you're actually there. So, most of the time I'm spared a lot of the gory details, but at the same time, it's kind of hard in that you do have to write things down that seem to be nonsensical. Okay, so I'm getting that I should maybe pull a couple more cards here and then leave this deck. Well, maybe not leave this deck alone, but put others on top of it. And so I'm getting the first and third here. Oh, Justice. You know what? She's in red and green, so my guess is that he'll be caught around Christmas time. And the tower is some kind of disaster. It could also represent a divorce. Well, obviously he's deceased now, so he's not going to be going through a divorce. So let's see. Are they trying to tell me this is when the perpetrator or perpetrators will be caught? All right, there's something significant about the hand kind of grasping. Okay, well, it is holding a scale, but it's like reaching for something to the left hand reaching for something. Like the hand reaching for something is important. I don't know what that means. Maybe when they go to arrest him, he's going to reach for his gun and that's going to be the end of him. I mean, that could be what the tower represents. I mean, if he were to not survive being apprehended, it could be that's what that is. But let me see if they'll tell me anything specific, because right now that's just speculation. But the red and green, now let me just make sure. Let me ask them, does this represent Christmas time? And I'm getting yeah, or a little bit later, like between Christmas and New Year's. All right, so something's going to happen then. Is that going to be, oh, okay, these little marks back here I'm shown are like prison bars. Okay, so he may be arrested by New Year's, maybe in that week just before New Year's. And then, okay, there's something not so much about this little ridge here as there is something to the green area to the right of it, which makes me wonder if this is a mountain range and there's something significant about the green area. So if this were the Appalachian Mountains, this would be the Atlantic coast. And so I'll ask them, is that what that means? And they're talking about a drop-off, like if this were a cliff. Does it have to do the Appalachians? And I'm getting kind of like a somewhat negative response, not a resounding no, but more like, well, that's not exactly what we meant. Okay, so we have this path, and again, it's not the trees they want me to look at. They want me to look to the area to the right of it. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I'm not getting that. Something about... Okay, so people fall out of the tower. I mean, usually the artwork is, a lot of times there's a lightning strike and fire coming out of it and people falling out of the tower. This person, I'm getting the intuition, is like reaching to get into the window. Like they jumped up to a window and they're trying to get in. Which makes me wonder if this guy started out, well, now we're warning me off to not say this, but I was going to say it makes me wonder if he started off as a prowler. But they're telling me not to say that. So apparently that's like a no, or that's not the direction they want me to go. So why would he be jumping up to a window and trying to get inside? Look for someone or something is what I'm getting. And I'm getting that he like gets hit in the face. Like someone in there just hits him in the face. All right, so again, these noises, if you can hear them on the video, are from the cat playing with his toys. Okay, I guess I've spent a lot of time on the tower. They're telling me not to exactly move on just yet. There's something about this curly area on top of the tower, and I'm seeing that's more like a cartoon kind of curly hair is what they mean by that. Okay, the problem here is when you get cards like this, this would be a victory. This would be, I mean, basically a struggle and a victory here. This could be by the assassin. It could be for somebody like inside the company. It could be for the victim before he was attacked. So I have to come in on this psychically to try to figure out what's going on here. When I look at the imagery, I'm kind of getting that he may have had affections for somebody outside of his marriage. But, I wonder if the fact that the victories are involved here had anything to do with this, or if this is all psychic imagery. Okay, I'm getting it with someone quiet off to the side. The first inkling was that it was actually a same-sex relationship, and then maybe not. So I'm not really sure what the issue with that relationship was or what the nature of it was. I'm going to ask them, was that like emotional cheating, or was it just like having an office wife or something, or was it an actual affair? Okay, so they're giving me the issue wasn't so much that, but who it was. And so now I'm going to ask them if that was the reason behind the assassination, or if it was something else and this just happened to be going on. They're telling me that's shaky territory. Why is that? Is that because you don't want to tell me, or is that because it's a little bit of, it was just kind of happening off the side, and it's just one of different considerations? Okay, I'm getting, it was off to the side, but it was a big off to the side. Okay, I mean, the hesitance there, and really, okay, now I'm getting something about this horse's ear is important. And I'm kind of getting that the company, some people in the company knew what was going on. And it would make sense with people knowing his schedule that, somebody close to him in the company could have been tipping the assassin off, although I'm not saying that's what happened. Although that would be easier than having a hacker assist you. All right, so they knew what was going on. What action did they take? And I'm getting the word blab. Okay, well, this is taking a while to get this out point by point. Is there anything else about this? Was this like, and I just got the whole relationship what? Okay, now I'm not getting anything. They try to force them, and it's like, Oh wait, they might still have something to say. I don't know why they're drawing my attention to this little round thing, and it's probably the horse's shoe. And oh no, is there a horse in this? Yeah, I guess there is. Reminded me of a coconut for some reason. I have no idea what a coconut would mean. I'm kind of getting that this was a relationship the company would not have approved of. And a lot of times companies don't approve of relationships if they're between employees, or especially if they're in the same department. So it could be that. I mean, I'm not getting a lot of clarity on this. And again, entertainment purposes only. I have no idea if any of this is correct or if I'm reading this correctly. But I'm getting that it shouldn't have been happening. But, usually stuff like that would lead to a termination, not a murder. Okay, so how is this involved in the assassination? And I'm just getting the word don't, or don't go there, something like that. I don't know if that's them. Are you speaking that to me, or is that something that was spoken to one of them? And I'm getting, it was spoken to one of them. I'm getting the sense that I shouldn't move on just yet. This is like slow going here. Yeah, I mean, they're giving me characteristics of the person that he may or may not have been involved with. But I don't really know that I'm comfortable disclosing that, because if it isn't true, I mean, somebody might assume that's somebody in the company and it's the wrong person who had nothing to do with any of this. So let's move on. Okay, apprenticeship and this. Well, this is a little darker, even though these cards are amazingly pretty. I've always liked these cards. Okay, the apprenticeship card or the education. I definitely had the idea art teacher, which I think is one of the things, I don't know if they're specifically mentioned with this deck or what. All right, why did you tell me art teacher? I'm kind of getting that this guy represents the assassin or the shooter. Okay, so he has his glasses on. Are they saying he was a student? Oh, you know what? I wonder if a student was the issue. Right, so now I have to go back and ask them, was a student the reason for the assassination? I'm kind of getting that, like, this is the student. Now, is this the assassin or somebody the assassin knew? It's like they don't want to give it to me, so I wonder if I'm being guided down the wrong path again, but I was just given that it was somebody the assassin knew. Oh, so was this like health related? Was this person not given the care they needed because of this guy or because of the company? And I'm getting a yes. Yes, like that wasn't without that. Okay, so they're talking about a person who didn't get the care they needed. So was this somebody who the assassin knew personally, or was this just something he'd heard about, or knew a friend of a friend, a distant relationship where he didn't actually know the person personally? Now, see, here's the real sticky situation, because if I say he didn't know the person personally, and he did, well, that's just a wrong answer. So I'm wondering if I'm pushing them too hard and I'm going to get led down the wrong path. Okay, so why don't you explain the relationship? Could you tell me a little more about the relationship of these two? For some reason, they showed me this shoe stepping on the green carpet, and then they said corp. All right, so I'm wondering if this is someone inside the corporation, and the issue wasn't so much healthcare, but something that was done to somebody at the corporate level. Knee? Okay, so taking me the knee, and then the he sound from the heel. The heel? Was somebody named Neil? Grew. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to sound something out to me. I don't know that it would make any sense. And in fact, I'm getting that it's still kind of in development here. I'm getting a sound like I was getting actually the word 10 was more significant over here, like tentative contract, and then duped, and then effed, like the F word, and then ED. But I'm not going to say the actual word. So, okay, so they're saying somebody was duped. Tentative contract, I don't know what that means. I mean, is that a contractor inside the company, employed by the company, or is that a tentative contract for something to do with the shooting? And then duped might be what is this person not getting paid for the shooting, or the person helping him or assisting him was duped into it, thinking that they were helping with something else. I mean, I'm not sure what that is. So just overall, I mean, they want to tell me what's going on here. Now I'm getting the words upstate build. Okay, upstate build. Well, build could be building a home. Build could be billing for insurance. With his line of work, probably billing for insurance. Upstate, I'm not really sure what that means. Oh, okay, now they're changing that to upset. Upset over a bill. So I'm taking it that this had something to do with somebody being upset over a bill. Was that an insurance bill or a medical bill? And, they're telling me kind of like, well, it should be obvious it's a medical bill. Did it lead to somebody not getting the care they need? I mean, was this person damaged in any way? And I'm getting the word build again. And then awful, like it happened at the worst possible time. And I'm just getting the word awful again. And now I'm seeing that this guy's holding something that's kind of pointy, so that could represent his gun. And I'm wondering, is that significant that there's a young girl to the side of him? Like, is this over a younger sister or some lady he knew? I'm actually kind of getting the word grandma. I don't know if that's true. Again, this is a lot of back and forth, which could be trying to force it too much. I mean, I could be asking too many questions, and this really... this is honestly just for entertainment purposes, because this isn't going to help any law enforcement. I mean, they have to find the guy and make the case. It's questionable how much of this is true. Like I say, I've never given nor received a tarot reading that was 100% accurate. I mean, a lot of them are very, very accurate, but I don't recall one that was 100%. It's always kind of that 80 to 90% margin, and in a case like this, I don't know that the spirit guides would even want to be that helpful. Okay, I'm getting like we're near the end of the reading, and so I think they want me to take this instead. One of these two. And then something like this one, like this one, and then I can take this one. All right, the Hanged Man, and it ends with the Hanged Man and the Ace of Cups, but let's go back and see what's going on here. Yeah, in a past reading, this meant a very poor man. This is usually the materialism card, somebody who's kind of greedy. All right, so what's happening in this one? Obviously in a past reading, the visual imagery meant something. It's probably going to mean something different this time around. Okay, they're telling me I can bring these two back into it. These two. Okay, so let's try to get all these in this shot to show what I'm looking at here. And we'll move these later. Okay, so I'm seeing this guy this time around is like a judge in his black robes. And he's looking off, and I kind of get that the judge isn't going to be that sympathetic, even though they talked earlier about how not to jump to conclusions when the people responsible were finally caught, that there is a story to it. I'm getting that the judge isn't really going to be that sympathetic. I mean, they'll listen, but not be that sympathetic for the reasoning for it, which, is quite typical. I mean, if somebody's murdered, obviously there are other things you can do than that, and the legal system doesn't really like that. That's kind of what it's built to prevent, by stopping people from doing it. Okay, for some reason I keep being drawn to this thing in the background that looks like an egg on a pedestal, kind of asking if does this have to do with babies? Is that why it's an egg shape? And they're drawing my attention actually to the window behind him. And it kind of looks like there's a bit of the frame missing, but you can still see outside maybe. So like a part of the window is missing. Okay, so I'm getting like the window of opportunity is missing, something to do with a young child or baby. Does this mean that the person who didn't get the care or, was being billed, which may have affected the care, does that mean that the window of opportunity to help them is gone, or is this person already passed? They're drawing my attention to this foot and saying, oh, it's a lot of this, putting your foot down. I'm getting that it's kind of like they watch insurance executives just sitting, basically they're saying sitting on their butts while other people run around and do things. In other words, somebody resents the fact that the insurance industry really doesn't add much value to the healthcare. They just basically pontificate from a chair while the doctors do all the work. And, and they basically, should I use the word interfere? And they're saying, oh, it's worse than that. And they're showing me the paper with the corner kind of turned down. They're saying deny. Okay, so this may actually have something to do with what he wrote on the bullets. That may not have been a ruse. They put my attention to the desk, which seems to be a little circular, but then they said circular chair, or maybe I'm getting more a sense of like musical chairs, but in the sense that people are sent around in circles. It's not literally, but basically, trying to get a bill covered or whatever, that they're tossed from person to person at the insurance company, so they have to go around in circles. Oh, and they're saying time after time. And they're saying it's awful. I wonder if this is the assassin speaking here, if they're taking that out of his thoughts or words. And they're saying it's awful close. So it's awful close to his words. And they're saying anger inside his head. And I'm also getting that, not that they're saying the slaying is justified, but they're saying, or they're also, now they're giving me the word comprehensive. They're saying if people knew what went on emotionally, they'd appreciate what was happening to this person or the people he was concerned with. All right, so now I am seeing the Knight of Wands, and there's something about his hat that they're drawing me to. It almost looks like something that's going to bite you. Now they're saying stirrup. Okay, is that going to morph into another word? Stir for... not like sword, not like swear, but like stung, spring. Okay, they're giving me a lot of S words here. Let's see, sword, stirrup, stung, spring, like an S or an R or a T, kind of like swing it. Sometimes in the past when they give me things like this, it's not the guy's last name, but it's, if you take all of them together, it's kind of giving you a pattern that it might sort of resemble. And I thought that was pretty clever one time because even though they didn't give me his actual last name, if there were a bunch of names they were considering, it would have been pretty obvious which one to address first, to look into, to try to save yourself time. Again, sorry for noises coming from my cat below the table. He's just being a cat. Okay, let's see. What else? There's a ragged robe here, or a robe that initially looks ragged. It's not really, but that's the way it looked, and so that's the intuition that they're trying to start with. They're giving me the word rugged, pissed, squatter, like he works out, herd. Oh, they're saying like herd mentality. He's recognized. I don't know if that means recognized as in somebody who's recognized him on TV and already given police the tip, or if he's recognized for his accomplishments or his abilities. They're saying recognized for his abilities, recognized elsewhere. Okay, anything else with this? They're saying leaf litter. Leaf litter, what does that mean? Like they drew my attention up here and then they turned that into leaf litter. I mean, was he hiding under leaf litter in the forest? I'm not sure. Oh, is that where he hid his weapon? Somewhere under leaf litter? And they're saying heard, not answered. Okay, so they're not going to answer that one, what leaf litter means. And then, now see, this is, I have seen other, I remember, oh gosh, was it last year or something? I saw a psychic reading that wasn't too bad on a crime, but this is the way I do them. And it has, and I don't really do crime readings. I do psychic readings occasionally for missing persons. This technique I'm using right here isn't something that I've really seen other people do, but it's what I found actually comes up with at least some usable information, if not usable by me, then usable by, the people who are working on it. So that's why I use this method, is I want it to be useful. I don't want it to be some generalized stuff. Oh, the killer was in his 20s, and it was a white guy, and it was, and he was upset about his bills because his grandma was very ill, and his grandma passed away as a result of delayed care, or, I'm just making this up. I mean, but I'm saying I don't want it to be that kind of reading where everything's really generalized and not usable. I mean, that could be a million different people, or probably not a million, but they could probably go through United Health records and find too many to look into all the cases, whether some of the people who were wronged had relatives who might be upset. So, and even then, I mean, does that prove anything? I try to do something that might help them. I mean, and the spirit guides just basically give me what they want to give me. And if that helps, fine. If it doesn't, if basically the police already have everything they need and it's just a matter of finding the guy, I'm not really going to be doing much good here. So I just kind of let them be in control because they know what's helpful and what isn't. And I just want to be helpful. In this case, though, I tend to, I kind of think maybe I'm not going to be that helpful because crimes have to be solved with real evidence. And I wouldn't trust this to be accurate on everything. Therefore, even if it were possible to have a psychic reading entered in as evidence, I wouldn't want it to be. So this is this really, really is a reading just for entertainment, more than finding out what's going on, because eventually we'll find out exactly what went on, and it'll be in court, probably on TV. So let's see. I think this is the High Priestess is what they're trying to show here. They're telling me this is a dentist's pick. And again, they're saying build. They're bringing my attention up here, which in this light, this looks like green. So they're saying something to do with money. They're also drawing my attention to some green area here. It may actually be blue, but in this light, it looks green, and that's what they mean. If that's what it looks like to me. And gold here. So this is a lot about money. And they're saying also like a potion or a poison, which, medicines could be considered to be potions or poisons. I mean, medicines in the wrong dose are poisons. So, okay, so maybe her medicines weren't covered. I don't know. And I'm using the word she, not knowing if, any of this is true or if the person involved was actually a woman. There's something about the angular cover she has here about its shape. Again, kind of triangular. There's something about that, but they won't tell me what that is. And here, they actually told me to bring this card back, and here's the triangle again. 3 of scepters. Oh, okay, again, that could point to someone who's a student or involved in education in some way, an artisan, a talent card, things like that. But a triangle, what's that mean? I mean, is that a love triangle maybe? Or is it like the intuition I had the first time was Triangle Park, which would represent a technology area? I'm kind of wondering about that. But they gave me what they gave me on this card, and I'm not going to try to force anything more than that. Okay, but this is something to do with money and something to do with triangles. So when they say things like potions and poisons, I'm thinking that the triangle isn't so much a love triangle, but, I can't be sure. Are these 2 different decks? No, they're the same one. Okay. And then this. Okay, so the Ace of Cups, and then the Hanged Man. Okay, the Ace of Cups can actually mean several things, so I'm going to, oh my gosh, I just realized there's triangles down here. And these things are kind of telling me they're actually, oh, that's odd. They're saying I'm getting both the intuition that they're tears and cocoons. So, and there's something about this circle up here that's significant. So this is more of a visual cue, even though, the cup of, the Ace of Cups is a good card to have most of the time. Okay, but I'm again drawn to a triangle and then a plant on top of it. And they've drawn my attention to plants before, but in combination with the triangle, I wonder if that's significant that they're in combination. And then, you know, the leaves up here too. So, oh, that's right. They said leaf litter before. And so then triangles, leaf litter and triangles. What is that all about? Okay, and then I'm getting that there's something significant about these buildings down here, but, you know, I guess they do have triangular roofs. I wonder if that's a part of it. Okay, and they're bringing my attention that they could be silos. Or, I mean, you know, they look more like ruins, but they're giving me the word silos, and then they're changing it to Shiloh, which actually was a Civil War battle, but it also, I think it's also a place. It is actually a common name in the South for places. I mean, I think buildings and churches and stuff are named after that. Okay, but it's a hanged man. They're drawing my attention to the rope around his ankle. Okay, they're giving me the word ankle and Anders and ankle, ample, ness, friend, belief system, beliefs. Oh, do they mean Belize or police? I'm not sure which way that's going to go. They're saying belief system. I'm kind of getting more that leans toward police. Policing the negligent. Okay, that is interesting. Now the fact I'm also going to ask some. Oh, you know what? He's in this little simple looking shirt here, and the fact that it's kind of a bluish green or greenish blue color reminds me of a doctor's scrubs. What are they saying about? Are they saying something about doctors here too? Now, the hanged man is something where you're in a position where there really isn't much you can do. So are they saying the doctors couldn't do anything for this person? And they're saying, or that he leaves, or he leaves her away, or leads her away into doom. Oh, they're basically, that's a commentary on the guy who was assassinated. Well, again, this isn't totally specific information, so it kind of gives me a general idea, but again, I've kind of been pointed toward a possible relationship with someone and, the role of his company in denying claims or not authorizing things, and which may have led to somebody's harm or death. So I'm not really sure. It does look to me, though, with a hanged man that he may actually get the death penalty combined with other cards that I've seen in this reading that I mentioned earlier. So I do think that he is eventually apprehended. So I think overall for this reading, it's saying that he is going to be apprehended probably after Christmas, before New Year's, somewhere around that time frame. People shouldn't rush to judgment because there is a story behind it. Not that they're saying it's justified, but that people would have more understanding if they knew. In other words, it was a source of mental duress for him. I wonder, is he going to plead insanity or something? It does look like somebody was working with him, possibly someone from technology, to track his victim. Okay, so we have why he was targeted, who targeted him. I'm kind of thinking that because he had a helper, that there was more than one person involved. There was also money involved, and a lot of it, they said. Also, I think there was some kind of friction within the company with him. Possibly friction at home over an inappropriate relationship, although the inappropriate relationship may have been more called out by people at work. People apparently knew what was going on and he was warned against it. Now, this is just, keep in mind, this is just a tarot reading, so this is really on the equivalent of pure speculation. I mean, this is just entertainment purposes. This is just what I got from the cards. That doesn't mean it's accurate. Supposedly something was going on at work. I'm not sure if but it looks like the assassin didn't come from there. This assassin came from the position of people being harmed by decisions made within the company for which he was ultimately responsible. I think we do have elements of the questions I had that were answered here. We'll have to see how many of them were accurate answers. I don't know if any other little details that came up would help anybody. This is probably the kind of thing that law enforcement wouldn't even pay attention to because they have the crime. There's nothing more they can do for the victim. The victim isn't lost. The victim is deceased. And they pretty much just have to find the perpetrator and come up with the evidence to charge him with a crime and prosecute him. This isn't something that a tarot reading can really do much for. It's more just out of my own curiosity and my own suspicions when, I'd see things on TV about him apparently knowing exactly where the guy would be, other things that he did that were kind of, to me, suspicious that indicated something larger was at play here than somebody just upset that grandma didn't get her medicine. So that's it for tonight. Well, we'll do, hopefully, I don't want to say a less targeted reading next time. I don't want to say less targeted, but I really don't want to do another criminal case like this or where I'm really not of much use. This was just out of curiosity. So we'll get back to regular readings probably in a few days because it always takes a bit out of me to do these readings. I don't have that much extra time from my day job, and this is more just my own curiosity wanting to see what the cards say. So thanks for coming along with me, and I hope tarot readers out there learn something, and I tend to learn something from other tarot readers, and if they didn't, hopefully people enjoyed it.